Guys, welcome to the Men's Journal Everyday Warrior podcast. I've got a great guest today, Simon Cellan Jones. And Simon, I would have gotten your middle name wrong if your team had not told me the correct pronunciation. I don't know if that is a British pronunciation or
Well, it's somewhat British. You did great, by the way. It's Cellan Jones, and it is from Wales. I have
Wales.
some Welsh blood. Yeah.
Well, guys, Simon has a rap sheet that's extremely long from war correspondent, which I mean, the fact that you went into production. You traveled to let me guess. I think it was Russia, Afghanistan in the early days. You've seen war up close, but Simon is an award-winning director, and I'll just read off a few. One, Simon and I were talking before we started, but he did Generation Kill, which was an amazing series. It was an HBO series, correct?
That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. Generation Kill was about First Recon Battalion during the ground war, the offensive into Iraq in 2003, and it was my old platoon. Gunny Wynn was my platoon sergeant at one point. I was young. I was a corporal yeah, at that time, but you did a fabulous job sort of depicting the special operators within First Recon Battalion. That was dear to my heart. And then, Boardwalk Empire, The Expanse, Ballers, which I binged out on. I think there anyone who got into Ballers with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, Shooter, C with Jason Momoa, and you've got one coming out March 15th, which I got a screener of Arthur the King. And whenever you combine adventure racing, just a good feel good story with dogs, my wife and I were glued. It was a tearjerker, and it was well
Good.
done. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm really proud of it.
So, Simon, give us your background because one, I'd say movies, production, directing are in your blood. Your father introduced you early on, but just give the audience your background, born, raised, and what led you to this point.
Yeah. My first job in the movies was as a mailboy at 20th Century Fox in London, which was the sort of bottom of the ladder job. Believe me, it was cleaning the lavatories. It was delivering film around Soho. Um, then I did a few things. Then I went to the glorious BBC, which I just still love. It's amazing. It's like our PBS, but more so. And they sort of trained me to do loads of things. And then I just took the leap, made my own little film, and threw myself into the freelance world. And so far, I'm still here.
This younger generation, which in this generation, it seems like people want to come in fast and they want to skip a few steps. From somebody who started in the mailroom, what do you often tell the young, ambitious people that are coming into this industry that hey, you got to start at the bottom and you got to work your way to the top?
Well, I sort of say, you can start. I think it's great to start at the bottom, but if or wherever you start, if you get yourself a little bit of experience, I think just working hard is a good thing. I'm sorry, I'm sounding like an old fart here, but I
Yeah.
think that's the right way. And the next thing I'd say to those people trying to cut some corners or whatever, these days you guys have got these things. They make films, so everybody has the means to make the film now. I had to hire a camera and spend tens of thousands of dollars on film stock, but now you could make one in your garden, and I think that's a great thing.
That it's like the military. You don't come in at the top. You got to work your way to you got to work your way to every rank or every position. And there is, I think, there's more appreciation for the path when you do that.
Yeah, I mean, I really think so. And I started directing pretty young, but even so, it felt like I just worked like a dog for years, which I did. And you know, maybe that toughened me up, or maybe I don't know. But it feels like I'm not complaining about when things go well because I remember when they went badly.
Did you feel like you had higher expectations placed on you because you came with your father's background?
Possibly, I guess so. And you always get the nepo kid accusation. And sometimes that makes you work harder. because people don't give you jobs because of who your folks are anymore. Because they're spending millions of dollars and they want a budget, they want a schedule, they want it done properly. They don't do people favors anymore.
So you got to explain to me. You said you started out and then you broke off, and you actually went to Beirut, Russia, Afghanistan, capturing war up close. What that seems like a pretty big leap from what you were
Well,
doing.
it was a weird thing, and I did it in dribs and drabs. I had my best friend was a newspaper reporter, and he started off in Beirut, working for the Beirut Daily Star, and then after a while, he got a job at the Times of London, a big fat newspaper. And I would, every now and then he would say, "Hey, I'm going to Afghanistan for a week. Do you want to come?" And I'd go, "Wow, I'm free. Yeah, why not?" And so, we wouldn't be being bombed and shot at the whole time, but it was a little bit lively.
Do you think that shaped your approach to filmmaking? I know, especially with Generation Kill, having experienced war up front, do you think that, I'll say, armed you to better portray the realities of war?
Well, yes, I would say so. Because again, I'm not putting myself as this guy who was, on the front lines with you guys in First Recon, for example. Um, but yeah, you learn a lot. You see people under pressure. Uh, you realize that you've got to grab a photograph or you've got to grab a moment because it's just, in real life you can't do retakes.
No, you can't. You can't. And I know after you came out of that, one of your first major roles was production runner in 1984, which was a massive hit. That must have been a massive learning curve for you.
Yeah, that
Actually,
was
what falls under a production runner?
well. It's making people see photocopying the script and the budget, but that's the interesting thing. You photocopy the budget, and you're obviously when you're photocopying the budget, it's a secret document, but you're going to look at it, and you learn so much from just reading stuff I was photocopying.
Where was it? What was the biggest learning curve?
Um, the biggest learning curve was seeing people get fired for dumb reasons, and you just have to keep your head down a little bit. You have to be nice. I think a good thing that's happened in our business. It hasn't fixed the problem, but this whole Me Too situation has made a lot of people think twice before they behave like an asshole or before they do other stuff. And I think it's a collaborative medium making films, and just like I mean, not just like being a soldier, but if you're a soldier, particularly, you really need your buddies behind you and beside you. That's the whole point of it, isn't it?
You bring that up, and I know that is a touchy subject with Harvey Weinstein. People love to paint in broad brushstrokes. Did that really place a bad image on Hollywood altogether? I mean, was that something you guys had to combat? That, hey, no, that behavior is isolated to certain people. That's not the industry.
Yeah, I mean it was a bad thing. It was some brave journalists. There were very powerful people like Harvey Weinstein, but other people as well, who just a lot of people say, well, that's the patriarchy for you, but it's um, a lot of stuff happened that was just like outrageous, and then suddenly people started speaking up.
Good.
And I'm not saying it's fixed the problem, obviously, but I do think people think twice now before behaving badly or being mean to people.
Yeah, it's that, and that's not just Hollywood. I'm speaking to the choir here. Power
Hmm.
corrupts absolutely, and that's every industry. Somebody gets that amount of power, they feel that they're untouchable, and all of a sudden that their behaviors are beyond reproach, and that's tragic. Um, so I've got to ask. I mean, you worked with, well, I should say some of the top actors in the world have worked with you. Uh, you know,
Thank you.
Dwayne Dwayne Johnson. I mean, he looks like the nicest guy. Is he truly just a joy to work with? And I mean, Mark Wahlberg sort of falls into that same category.
Mark Wahlberg is just fantastic. I mean, some of these people, they're movie stars for a reason. They have that thing that you can't really describe. They have that thing when the camera switches on, their face just changes a tiny bit. I don't know what it is. Um, and I've done two films on the bounce now with Mark Wahlberg, and he's pretty much at the top of his art, top of his craft. He's a producer, he's a multi hyphenate, all of that. He's an entrepreneur. But what he does is when he likes a role, he commits. That's one of the things I like most about him is he comes in. He doesn't just phone it in. He comes in and he does it for real, and I'm so grateful for that.
So is that the difference between top actors and I guess all the rest? Is you just see a level of commitment that they totally own the role, that they stop everything else and focus on that?
I think that's what the good ones do. Yeah, I mean, there's people out there who get well paid and show their face and then sort of go off and do another project, and good luck to them. But people like Mark Wahlberg, I think and The Rock and Jason Momoa, these guys, they love movies. They feel pretty blessed. They don't take their stuff for granted. They don't take the people they work with for granted. Um, and they just go, "Wow, I'm still doing it. I just hope it carries on."
The So I've got to ask this. I've gotten to become very close with Dan Myrick, who was the producer director of the Blair Witch Project, and
Hmm.
we've worked on a number of documentaries now. And the documentaries are different because it's a fly on the wall. But he said when you're running a major film and you're directing and you're filming, he said now that he knows the military, he said it's a small military operation. Um,
Yeah.
give us a sense of what goes into that. I mean, are you on edge when you're filming? Because I know you've got to stay within budget, you got to stay on time. Things come up, locations weren't properly coordinated. What is it to direct a film? What is it like to run those operations?
It's really cool. It's fun. It is a little scary. I mean, the last one I did had a pretty high budget. The before that, and then the Arthur the King. Again, it wasn't a huge amount of money, but it's like it's my first movie, and am I going to screw it up? So you have all that, but it's so exhilarating, and once you get over that sort of awestruckness about the problems, it's just the coolest job in the world.
And I got to assume everyone is looking at you when you are leading these. I mean, everyone is looking to you for the answers, guidance. Do you feel that weight as a leader?
Yeah, I think what you have to do as a director is, different people are different. Some of them want to control every tiny thing. That's not what I do. But I do think you have to have a plan. I think, if you're going to work with someone like Mark Wahlberg and you turn up on set not what you're doing, he's a nice guy, but he's going to go, what's going on? What are we doing? Um, so I think, yeah, having a plan and sometimes having an idea, whatever the idea is the right thing to do because it's an idea. So people go, okay, we'll do that, and then you go, oh shit, I hope it works, but at least they've stopped asking me questions.
Getting to Arthur the King. First off, give us why you signed up for this project, where you guys filmed, everything that went into it. Because I mean, watching it, it seems like that would be a logistical nightmare just to pull off a film like this.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. We filmed it during COVID. We filmed it in a beautiful country called the Dominican Republic, which is a big island in the Caribbean. Um, and the outside of it is beautiful, expensive holiday resorts with beaches. And you go sort of half a mile inland, and it's just jungle and small towns and stuff. So logistically, it was incredible. We had to, leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, strap all our gear to four-wheel drive, sometimes put it on a helicopter, sometimes put it on a zip line. Um, and it was a logistical nightmare, but again, that's part of the challenge. It's part of the fun. And yeah, it was. We were working with people again who were very committed. So it ended up being super fun.
Now, I've got to assume you guys try to give back to the community as much as possible. Are you hiring locals when you guys are doing that as much as possible?
We're actually hiring a very large amount of locals. Yes, I mean we bring in some key crew, um, but yeah, we're staying in hotels there. We're spending money on their equipment places and on their people, their caterers and stuff like that. So I hope, and that, I think they give a tax rebate, so there's always sort of each way incentives. But that's one of the things I love working in a place like Dominican Republic. It does have an infrastructure, but the people are fairly new to it. So you just got to put yourself in their hands.
So, were you approached on this film, or had you read the book, The Dog Who Crossed the Jungle to Find a Home?
No, I was approached. I was approached at quite short notice, and Mark Wahlberg was already involved, and they kind of were pretty much ready to go. And then COVID kept bouncing everything around, and I sort of swept in and loved the project. I mean, I've got three dogs, too many, obviously, but still, I love dogs. And the dog we had in this movie, which was in a way the co-star, was fantastic. You know, you hear the thing, don't work with dogs and kids, but this dog was great.
Hey, I tell you what, man, the dog. One, my wife and I are dog people. I think
Okay,
we love
good.
dogs more than humans, so that's what attracted us. But I mean, what do you think this? What are people going to walk away from this film, and what do you think it reinforces just in life?
Well, there you go. I mean, I guess the message of the film is for me. It's twofold. First of all, never give up. Which, believe me, I've given up several times, and we've all done it. So it's easy for me to say. And the second thing I would say is that there is more than one way to win a race. You know, you can cross the finish line the first, and that's cool, and that means you've won the race. But you know, you're racing against yourself, you're racing with your team, and you can win by just doing. You can win by never giving up.
And this story emphasizes that to the heart. Yeah, it definitely pulls in the heartstrings. Um,
Good,
you
good.
know,
I hope I had you a little
are,
worried
are
for a
are
few
you
times.
most excited about this one, or and of course you got to say that, but is it? I mean, is this one of the most favorite projects you've ever probably worked on?
Oh yes, yes. Well, it's. I mean, as I say, I've been lucky because I've done two films in a row with Mark Wahlberg, and they've both been extraordinary. The one before was called which in fact we filmed afterwards, was called The Family Plan,
Yes,
which was a sort of big action comedy. Um,
which
but
came out
this
in
one,
January,
this
right?
came out in December, just before
December.
Christmas. That's right. Yeah,
My
exactly
wife
right.
and I watched it right when it came out. And
Great.
remind me, that was released on Netflix.
Apple.
Apple. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but yes, I do. I love this film because it's kind of my first movie, really. I mean, I did it a couple of years ago, smaller ones, but this is one where I went, wow, this is your shot. You know, Simon, you don't screw it up. So the fact that it went okay was just such a relief. That will make it always dear to my heart.
Is there a leap between doing series and doing a full movie production?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. In a series, quite reasonably, they're kind of more run by the writers. So the writers like the producer and stuff like that, because you've got lots of directors, unless you're doing a pilot. But when you get to a film, of course, I have bosses. There are people above me, like the heads of the
Always.
studio and stuff. Always, there's always someone in charge above you, isn't there? Um, but a lot of it's on me. And what happens, I think, in a movie is people leave you alone when it's going okay,
Mm.
and when they're not happy with things, you damn well hear about it.
It's like the little monkey on your shoulder trying to stay
Oh
on
yeah.
top of the budget. So with COVID, were there? I've got to assume there were constraints on you that you had to deal with that you hadn't dealt with before.
Yeah, there were, and the studio and the producers were very tough about them. They said, "No one screws around with this. You've got to do it. You don't like it, tough." Um, and you're wearing masks the whole time. We're being tested 3 times a week. We have a whole COVID department, you know, politely but insistently telling you to put your mask on. If people take it off and you've got to put it back, you know. Um, so it was difficult. We have to sort of only certain amount of people in a van, and when you eat, you can't eat in a tent. You have to eat sort of outside. Um, but it was very well run. The film, very well managed, and it got done without anything serious screwing up.
Simon, before we close out, we ask all our guests, which are high performers, and you're a high performing with performer within your industry. You know, what are some of the two-part question? What are some of the the biggest lessons you've learned along the way, and what are the keys to success that you sort of equate that have led you to all the great accomplishments in your life?
Well, I do think that it's important to treat the people you work with well, partly because that's what a human does, but also selfishly, you want to get the best out of them. You want them to feel confident and excited and enthusiastic. So I think I don't have many abilities, but I do have a bit of energy and I do have a sort of enthusiasm for what I do. So that's been a big life lesson for me. Is that you take out is what you put in.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, again, Arthur the King comes out March 15th. My wife and I will help you, even though we've seen the screener. We'll definitely. There's nothing like going to the movies, which that's a topic.
Yes.
Nothing replaces going to a theater. It seems people say hey, theaters are dying. I disagree. There's nothing like that experience with popcorn, Coke, and taking a film in on such a large screen with other people enjoying it.
I'm a big fan of it, obviously, and I've seen this movie quite a few times with big audiences, with like 300-400 people in a cinema, normal cinema. And of course, the way people set each other off emotionally, you can hear the whole room reacting to a moment, and that's a sort of shared experience that I don't think you get off a computer screen.
No, I'm a big fan of movies. We actually had Cole Needham on a few weeks ago, the IMDb founder, who he's
Oh,
watched most of the
amazing!
films. Yeah. So, guys, again, March 15th, Arthur the King. Simon, anything you want to tell the audience that may get them off the couch and go watch
Well,
this film in theaters?
if you've got a dog, you have to see this movie. If you don't have a dog, you kind of have to see it anyway because it's sort of got so many things to attract you. It's got sport, it's got sort of chemistry between people, it's got animals, it's got extraordinary scenery, and let's not forget, it's about a bunch of crazy people who race for 5 days straight.
Well said. Well said. Guys, I will say this. My wife was not the only one in tears during the film. So it's a good one. Again, heartstrings. Great, just loving, fun loving story. So Simon, well done. Thank you for coming on the podcast. I know you're busy, especially with the premiere or the release, the theatrical release coming up. And I wish you the best of luck.
Fantastic. Really brilliant talking to you, mate. See you again soon.
Thank you. All right, guys. This has been the Men's Journal Everyday Warrior podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sorelli. Out here.